So here's the first question. This is for all of you. Everyone is talking about the leaked Supreme Court draft. This decision could overturn Roe versus Wade. You have all said you are pro-life. Are you in favor of any exceptions for abortions? Have you changed your opinion over the years? If so, what has changed your mind? You have 1 minute. Ms. Barnett, you're first.
Thank you. Whether this was a leak or whether it was a tactical operation, we will soon figure out. But one thing is clear. I am so very grateful that our nation is now having a very important conversation, and that is one of the most important conversations, that is about life. I am the byproduct of a rape. My mother was 11 years old when I was conceived. My father was 21. I was not just a lump of cells. As you can see, I'm still not just a lump of cells. My life has value. And that is one of the reasons why it was so very disturbing when I saw Mehmet Oz running for this particular race, when I've seen him on numerous occasions, and specifically at the Breakfast Club, saying that my life was nothing more than an acorn with electrical currents. I am wondering if the good doctor has now since changed his position on that. My life is valuable, and so are the many lives that find themselves in the womb of their mother, whether in the womb or towards the end of that life.
Dr. Oz, you have 30 seconds to respond. That was directed at you, sir.
You know, one of the toughest endorsements you can ever get is from your mother-in-law. And my mother-in-law is an ordained minister. She wrote a lot of the pro-life literature in Montgomery County where we live, and she certainly understands that I'm pro-life. As a heart surgeon, I've operated on small children, a few days old, and witnessed the majesty of their hearts pounding blood, even though it's ill, because I'm operating on them, through those bodies. I would never think of harming that child, or even 9 months earlier, because life starts at conception.
All right. Mr. Bartos, now your 1 minute answer to the question.
I'm pro-life, and Pennsylvania has a proud tradition of sending United States senators to Washington who are pro-life, from both parties. We have a tradition of sending governors to Harrisburg from both parties who are pro-life. And this seat, which will likely decide control of the Senate, is too important to trust from two people who are from Connecticut and New Jersey. I assure you, Connecticut and New Jersey do not have proud traditions of sending senators to Washington and governors to their state capitals who are proudly pro-life.
Dr. Oz, now your 1 minute response to the question.
I didn't finish. Sorry. I still have time, right?
You had your 1 minute.
That was 1 minute?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll yield my 1 minute to Jeff Bartos. I think I answered your question adequately.
Okay, I'll give you 30 seconds, Mr. Bartos.
John Fetterman has said with absolute clarity that he is going to Washington to make abortion legal on demand, anytime, any place. He has called abortion sacred. I will beat John Fetterman in November, and I will proudly take our Pennsylvania, Main Street, pro-life values to Washington as your next United States Senator.
Mr. McCormick.
Well, this leaked memo, if it becomes the court's decision, is a huge victory for the protection of innocent life. It's a huge step forward, and it also pushes the decisions down to the state level and voters where they should be. So we'll see if it becomes a ruling. If it does, I would embrace it, and I would be very, very happy about it. But I want to go back to Mehmet because I think that's not an adequate answer. If you go back to that Breakfast Club interview, which was 3 years ago this month, he talks about a whole different set of positions. He attacks the positions you're saying now, and the Pennsylvania voters need to know. And it's another example of you being phony in terms of the positions you're putting forward.
Ambassador Sands.
Before I get to my answer, I just want to thank Newsmax for hosting this debate. I want to thank you. And I also want to thank the gentlemen on either side of me for showing up, because they don't come to many of our debates, as a matter of fact. One is Dr. Oz, and I think it's probably because he's what I call a minnow, and that's MAGA in name only, minnow. So he's afraid. And then we have Mitt Romney McCormick next to me, because when he's in the Senate, he would vote like Mitt Romney, and we know what that means. But as far as life is precious. I will always vote to protect life at the beginning of life and at the end of life. The person who leaked this document did it on purpose to intimidate the Supreme Court. We know that Roe v. Wade is unconstitutional. It will now go back to the states, and this is a way, if it's true, that the people are empowered to make the decisions in each state. I support the overturn of Roe v. Wade.
Next, Wallet. Next, wallet issues. Polls show that the most pressing issue to voters is their wallet. Wages are rising, but prices are rising at a faster rate, meaning that people are losing money. Inflation is at an annual rate of 7.8%, the highest in 40 years. What specific policies would you promote to tame inflation? You each have 1 minute. Mr. McCormick.
Well, listen, as someone who's actually created jobs, and which is the primary goal of what we need to do in Pennsylvania is create jobs, I know a lot about this. And this inflation is killing working families, it's killing elders. We need to do 3 things. We need to roll back the massive spending under President Biden. It's been a huge spike that's been the primary driver of this inflation. The second thing we need to do is unlock our energy industry. A big part of the inflation is the rise in the cost of fuel. And what Joe Biden's done is taken us from being a net energy exporter to a net energy importer in 15 short months. We need to unlock that energy. That'll unlock our economy as well and put inflation in check. The third thing we need to do is have pro-growth economic policies, make permanent the Trump tax cuts, and deregulate. Those 3 things will create a vibrant economy in Pennsylvania that'll maintain our young people here. That's one of my primary goals as a senator, is to advance policies to keep this a vibrant economic area here in Pennsylvania.
Ambassador Sands.
We know that the radical Biden administration is passing these multi-trillion-dollar big bad bills stuffed with Green New Deal policy that's hurting our Pennsylvania farmers and our energy sector. And this inflation that the Biden administration has caused is costing every Pennsylvania family more than $5,000. It's a hit in their wallet of $5,000. That's a lot of money. People are struggling to buy gas for their car and get groceries. They're having to make decisions. I want to stop the out-of-control spending on day one in Washington, and I will work to bring opportunity to Pennsylvania so that we're growing. It's really a turnaround. We've been going in the wrong direction for the last over 40 years. I want to change that trajectory so that our kids and grandkids can do better than we've done.
Ms. Barnett.
Yeah. You know, we have been traveling over 1,500 miles all across the Commonwealth. You mentioned a county to me. I see faces. I see stories. I remember their stories. I'm looking in their eyes, and people feel unnerved all across the Commonwealth. We all know that something has fundamentally gone wrong with how our nation is being ran right now. Biden inherited an inflation of 1.7%, and now is over 8% and climbing. I just talked to a farmer not too long ago. He said this time last year, he was paying $40,000 just to fertilize 600 acres of corn. Today, he's paying over $120,000, and that is going to continue to go up. We have McCormick talking about bringing energy back. He and Oz, they're both globalists, and they have very strong ties to the World Economic Forum that was primarily responsible for convincing Germany to kill their own energy independence. And now they come before us talking about how they're going to bring energy back here. I seriously doubt it.
Dr. Oz.
There are 3 major ways we can address inflation, much of it caused by overspending, throwing money, in particular during COVID, at problems, and we now know that much of it was fraudulently distributed. But now that we've got the problem of inflation, the highest we've had in 40 years, 3 things we can do. We can raise interest rates, which is what's being done. That's what Biden thinks we should do. It will ultimately result in our collapse of our economy, into a recession. We can deal with the scarcity issues that are driving up prices. When the pizza guy needs Parmesan and mozzarella, he's got to pay more because he can't find it. But the third option, the best option, because it's the major driver of inflation, is energy. And right beneath our feet here in Pennsylvania, we have enough energy to supply the entire country for 200 years, dramatically reduce energy prices, make ourselves energy independent, and help our allies overseas. It is stunning to me that the Biden administration believes in a woke ideology around the Green New Deal, which is just a lie. As a scientist, I'll speak to the fact it cannot be done in the time allotted, and yet that's their narrative, and they're not going to change their minds. So we're suffering.
Mr. Bartos.
I'm running for the United States Senate to save Main Street, Pennsylvania. And the Biden administration's energy policies, which are at the root of so much of the inflation we're seeing, are an insult to farmers, working families, and Main Street small businesses across all 67 counties. I spent the pandemic organizing a group to save small businesses. We raised $3.5 million, helped over 1,000 women and men keep the lights on, keep the dream alive of owning their own small business. We have out-of-state political tourists who have dropped into this state to seek this seat, to run for this seat. They don't know Main Street, Pennsylvania, and you cannot save Main Street if you can't find Main Street. But we do know someone who can find Main Street. John Fetterman can find it, and we know that because he spent the pandemic bulldozing Main Street, and he will do it again in the United States Senate. This seat is too important to send an out-of-stater who doesn't know us to Washington. I will beat John Fetterman, and I will fight for Main Street in the United States Senate.